our Farm Safety in Service Zooms hosted by Tennessee Agribility. For your information, our next one will be May 21st, and it will be on chainsaw safety. So you may want to go ahead and put that in your calendars. I am Joyda White. I work with UTTSU Extension Agribility Program. I am the area specialist for the Western region, and I cover half of Central. My coworker, Eileen, is on here as well, and she covers Eastern region and the other part of Central. Wanted to remind you there will be time for questions and comments. If you want to use the chat box, please feel free to. Before we begin, does anyone have any upcoming events that they would like to mention? Okay, we will begin with our first speaker, Colonel Ardis Porter, a retired U.S. Army military officer. In his last assignment, he served as the Deputy Chief of Staff, United States Army Human Resource Command at Fort Knox, Kentucky. He received his commission as a second lieutenant through the ROTC program at Vanderbilt University. He holds a BS degree from Lipscomb University in Nashville and an MS degree from Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri. He has over 30 years of military leadership experience in senior and executive roles. Throughout his military career, he has been recognized as a proven senior human resource officer with extensive leadership skills. Currently, he is employed with AgriCenter International and serves as the program manager for the Veterans Employed in Technology and Service in Agriculture, otherwise known as VESTA. The VESTA program prepares transitioning service members and veterans for careers in agriculture, service, and support sectors. In addition, many educational opportunities are available for those interested in pursuing post-secondary training in agriculture. Colonel Porter, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Joetta. Want to say thanks to Eileen, and proud to be talking along with Kevin and Troy. Very thankful that we could participate in this event with you guys. So, as Joetta just said, she just told you who I am and who I'm representing, AgriCenter International. So, about 4 years ago, we started this Farm Safe program, which was sponsored through OSHA. And the program officially ended last year, but we've decided to keep it on for at least another year because there's importance in emphasizing safety across all levels. And so what we have is a Farm Safe program, which is essentially about 20 modules across different specific topics, safety related. And so what I want to do is go through that website with you. If you're not logged in and registered, we suggest that you do that. So if I could share my screen with you, Troy. So there you go. Is it up?
Yep. Yes, you got
it.
You got it, Ardis.
So I'm just going to go ahead and log in and walk you through some of the quick modules that we have available. And the beauty of these modules are they're self-paced, so you could take a break and come back and do them. Each module is about 20 minutes long. So as you can see, you log in and it has all of the modules listed here. So if you can see where my cursor is, it starts off with fortune number 4. And if you go over, you see all the different modules that are available. Everything from weather-related topics, maintenance on farm equipment, how to prevent work injuries, really a good selection of safety topics for anyone to really stay engaged with. Some of them we are updating, so we'll get involved with updating some of the modules here within the next couple of months or so. But these are very, very easy to do. There's a requirement to pass it with an 80% passing. If you don't pass, you get to go back and it'll show you what you did not answer correctly. You go back and take it again. But this is essentially our farm safe program. Everything from farm operations to tractor maintenance to weather-related topics. 4 of the modules are in Spanish. So for those that will require Spanish modules, we have 4 of them that we converted over to Spanish. But yeah, so that's essentially our farm safe program. It's free. AgriCenter pays for it, and we're going to keep it on for another year. I think we'll probably keep it enduring because of the urgency, because of the importance of safety across all levels. I'll put my information in the chat box if you want to reach out to me, you have questions. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have staffers that could come and teach anything. We're shorthanded, but hopefully over the next few months or so, we could have someone that would be available to come out to teach. If you require to want to come out and teach any one of the modules, we could probably do that for you. Okay, so that's it. That's Farm Safe in a nutshell. It's a great program. Encourage everybody to get engaged with it. Take a module anytime at your leisure. Yeah, we're very proud of it. So that's it, Joetta. I'm going to sign out of this, not share this screen anymore. Let's see, stop sharing. Okay. That's Farm Safe, guys.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comment they want to make at this time? Y'all are too quiet this morning. Thank you for sharing that information with us today. Yep. Next, we have Kevin Thompson, or otherwise known as KT, that us older folks know him as. He is the director of the University of Tennessee at Middle Tennessee AgResearch Education Centers in Spring Hill and Lewisburg. He received his Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Animal Science from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. He has been the director for 15 years. His programs that has been included that he has done precision livestock technologies in beef cattle research, agronomics studies, equine nutrition and stocker background and studies, reproductive training program, the UT Bull Evaluation Program, and Tennessee Beef Heifer Development Center. He has developed and led instructional seminars on cattle behavior, low stress and safe livestock handling practices. We welcome KT today.
Thank you, Joette. I sure appreciate that introduction, and I just want to thank Colonel Porter for all he has done and all he's currently doing, and that's a great set of modules there. And Colonel Porter, I have the honor of working today and tomorrow with a veteran. Spent 7 years, I think, in Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, and helping him transition.
Oh, great.
Horse and cattle work together, okay. And so I look forward to the next 2 days working with him. So I will just briefly start off by saying thank you for the opportunity to allow me to make this presentation. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart, as most people know. And Joetta, you can see my screen, right? It says cattle handling with stress and safety in mind. Good, good. And this is something that goes back, to some relationships and friendships that I've had that have been ended too early because of accidents associated with in essence, cattle handling. Some traumatic and even life-ending situations throughout my life, and so this is something that I really try to help people, and each and every day I learn myself in this activity. And I would just like to start off by showing you just a little clip and talking through this and what we're going to be talking about today. And I have the honor to be the director of a 1,265 acre facility located here in Spring Hill that does a tremendous amount of beef cattle work, and a 615 acre facility in Lewisburg that houses the Tennessee Beef Heifer Development Program. And so we're handling cattle all day long, each and every day. And as you know, parts of 7 days a week, because the Lord has provided these cattle into our hands to care for. And that's something that I and all the staff that I have the privilege to work with take seriously. And we feel that if we handle the cattle in a safe and low stress manner, that provides a high degree of safety, not only for the animal, which we are stewards of, but for each and every person that I get to work with and all the visiting professors and graduate students each and every day. And what you're seeing here is a group of cattle, typical day here in military Spring Hill, that we're bringing in. And these cattle had to move about 2.5 miles. So it's something that can be stressful. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But you can see myself and the one other person that I have helping me, that's actually Wes Gillum, who's in charge of a lot of the beef cattle research we do. We don't seem too stressed because we're trying to manage that. And while we manage that, we're putting ourselves in positions and to take stress away from cattle. And where we position ourselves actually reduces the stress of the cattle because it takes away places that they can escape. And when cattle see places that they can escape, it increases their cortisol level, their adrenaline level, and causes running and things of that nature. So I just wanted to kind of show you this and just notice all the activity that's going on here. We're also harvesting. This was last spring, harvesting, or it's actually 2 springs ago, some wet hay, some baleage. And so we've got activity going on with tractors. We've got a lot of different things going on. And you can notice we're putting ourselves in position to keep cattle from going places they shouldn't, that they do desire to go, and presenting them with places that they think they're escaping. And you can see we've got a little running going on here, but that's where we want these cattle to go. And I just want to put a phrase in mind that I think you can have as a take-home message. If you're hurting one animal, or if you're hurting a herd of animals, and I think I saw Ronnie Barron on there, it even works on roosters. If you apply 3 points of pressure, you can maintain direction and you can maintain speed. And if you maintain direction and speed in herd movement, you're controlling anxiety level, not only in yourself, but in the herd. And you have those cattle going where you want. So this is a big, wide open space, you can tell. And we're just kind of maintaining. We've got West behind as one point of pressure, me on the offside as a point of pressure, and the fence on the inside as a point of pressure. And we're allowing these cattle to move forward to the direction that we want them to go. And if anybody recognizes this scene, this is in front of our bull barn or conference facility, and we're on our way to the handling facility on the hill. And in a second, you're going to notice even a tractor loaded full of baleage, wheatlage coming by. That's probably why those cows stopped. They wanted to go over there. But us just applying that gives us the opportunity to control speed and direction, and it assists us in controlling anxiety in ourselves and the livestock that we're handling. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is healthy strategies for managing our herd, our family, and ourself through those interactions. And it has to kind of, if we think about this, we have the stewardship and the care responsibilities of the herds. We have the opportunity to work with on a daily basis that provide, monetary gain for our family, that provide a job for myself through AgResearch and the wonderful people that I get to work with. And there's so many things that are gleaned from that. We also have to think about our family. And whenever we're stressed and in an anxious type situation, sometimes those closest to us receive the most angry words, I might say. And if you've worked cattle with your wife, or you've worked cattle with your son or daughter, or your uncle or your aunt or your next door neighbor, You probably raised your voice a time or two and then apologized later. And then just with yourself, we need to control anxiety and stress in our lives just from a health standpoint. So a lot of this that we're talking about today is really focused on those three things: the cattle we get to work with, our family and friend interactions, and then how it benefits ourself, our health. And really it goes back to anxiety. It relates to safety. It relates to those controlled interactions. And cattle, the way they're treated today, they're going to react either positively or negatively tomorrow because of how we treated them today. And each and every time we go out in that pasture, we become an advocate for the industry that we enjoy being part of, because most of our farms in the state of Tennessee have relatives in Florida and Georgia and Kentucky that interact with cattle and other parts across the country. Most of our farms now are on public roads or have public roads. And everybody now has a cell phone that has a wonderful camera on it and a wonderful video means of taking videos. So if we do something inappropriate, that can be pasted and posted and sent across the world in just a matter of seconds. And so everything that we do, we want to keep in mind that we need to be a positive advocate for the industry. And as we go forward in thinking, there's just a few things I listed as stressors that impact our family, our friends, and our herd interactions, right? What are the things that cause stress whenever we're dealing in the beef cattle industry? Well, reproductive events, artificial insemination programs. Or are our cows, do we need to get the bull up and put him in the pasture? What about wintertime feeding? That can be very stressful when it's, a wind chill of -6, like it was about 4 or 5 times this year. And we're out there trying to put hay out. It's stressful for us. It's stressful for the cattle. We actually visualize that, and that causes more anxiety in ourselves. And we tend to wake up in the middle of the night lots of times worried about, how those cattle are doing and performing. Herd health situations. We've got to gather cattle. Anytime that we have to gather cattle, and any herd movement causes stress. And the need for us to learn to control that and actually manage it. And there's no more stressful time in the beef cattle industry than marketing and getting those cattle up and getting them to market. And that's probably something that I've had a lot more experience than a lot of folks. I've had the opportunity to work in the livestock marketing industry through my grandfather, who had stockyard in Hamlin County and Greene County up in East Tennessee, and then grew up with stocker cattle, buying and selling with my father, and then also had the opportunity to work 10 years with Tennessee livestock producers in developing the Tennessee Beef Marketing Alliance and videoing and marketing several tractor trailer load lots of cattle each and every month. And you get to interact with people and you can just see the stress on their face when you go to pick those cattle up. So that all is so impactful and something that we need to think about in the industry that we work with. But really, from an on-farm perspective and a personal perspective, managing stress is the key, and controlling that personal level of stress, anxiety, and temper. Because what happens if we don't control it, it manifests into the actions and the temperament of the cattle that we work with. And so if we're calm, those cattle tend to remain calm, or at least we have a better chance of guiding in the direction and the speed that we want them to go. And so always keep that in mind, thinking about how can we better manage our stress and anxiety level. It's a whole lot like the days whenever I was in school, and I guess it was an excuse, Troy, because I never was a straight A student. I made C's and B's, right? And I would just tell Mama I just get so stressed. Whenever I take that test, I knew the material. Well, that was probably an excuse, but we can practice controlling stress and anxiety through several different things that we won't go into now, but that's something that's so key to our lives in general. one way that I love to control my stress level, and it impacts the level of anxiety within the herd, and that's this pasture interaction, just daily interaction. If you have time throughout the year, just observing the herd in their natural behavioral environment, not expecting them to move or go, just be present within the herd. And then they become comfortable with you and then the position that you're in, and it makes everything else uh, much easier. But being familiar with our cattle, allowing them to see us and to really just, not to sound silly, but let them get to know us, right? Because there's things that happen when we're not there that they don't necessarily associate with us. So we want to be associated with them through that additive behavior as a positive. Because this next slide is going to show you some things that can occur whenever we're not there. And this is a situation that has really become critical, I think, especially in the Southeast with the increased population of the black vulture. And we're not talking about the turkey vulture, that's the red-headed one, but these black vultures tend to be somewhat predatory. And a lot of it, I think, is to do with the population increase and in them. And there's something that's they're necessary. We don't want to go out and eliminate them because they are a necessary scavenger. But I think we need to understand how they can stress our herd, and in turn, how that can reduce the safety level for us as proper managers of the livestock. So I just want to show you this video. We collected this back in February 2nd with one of our trail cams on some research that we're doing here. And I've got many hours of this film. So this is just post us checking cattle. And if you see this little, if you see my cursor, there's a little black baldy calf up here. I actually tagged that calf it would have been about 7:05 in the morning that morning and left. Okay. And I'm going to hit play. And I just want you to kind of notice how calm the cattle are. They're milling around. This is kind of a heavy use area pad where we feed our hay and our baleage. We've got the water there. You see down here on your right, the black vultures are starting to hang around and be a little active. They showed up. Now watch the level of activity and anxiety that presents itself within the herd. See this cow chasing her calf up here. Note this baldy cow. Okay, what we're going to be talking about is maternal aggression. She does not have a calf yet. So she's just happy-go-lucky. She doesn't care if those black vultures are there. She's going to go down here to the water and get a drink. But notice every cow that has a calf. Notice what they're doing. Notice this one right here. They're going to look for their babies. All right? This increases the opportunity. No, listen. See this hurts me to watch this and know this is going on. But I want you to watch and see how these calves are running in front of their mamas, and each and every one of them are doing that. So if you have calves with broken legs, that's how those legs got broken. And notice this cow up here trying to protect her calf. So that's an extreme stressor to each and every one of these cows and these calves. That is an additive effect. There's additive effect to that. What happens today is going to impact how they react tomorrow. And so what we see here is something that increases maternal aggression. And whenever we have an increase in maternal aggression, we have unexpected things that may occur. So if we see this Angus Charolais cross cow out in the pasture with a brand new baby that she's just licked off, and last year we went up and tagged that calf with no problem. So if we go out there now and we approach this cow after an event that you just saw, she is probably going to attack us. At no fault to herself, she is just reacting to a negative super anxious event that just happened. And she's just wanting to protect that baby. And so that's how a lot of producers wind up in the hospital with broken ribs or broken hips, especially some of our producers that have gotten some age on them, and I'm getting there too, right? And you know, a 1,400-pound cow can do some damage. But also what we see, these cows, as you saw those cows chasing their calves, trying to keep up with them because of the stress, that cow can actually step on a calf and injure that calf to the point that it will later die or cause some severe performance issues. So that's just something I wanted to bring up. We're doing some research with that. We're actually capturing maternal aggression events. Every time we go out, we tag every calf at birth. We wear GoPros and we monitor the maternal aggression, and then we match it back to those events. And so we put ourselves in some pretty precarious positions just to capture footage for research sake. But I just wanted to mention that. And so share with your producers and you as producers, be careful and know your cattle, but also know that even though you know your cattle, still be cautious because we don't know what happened before we got there. Getting back to really controlling stress and controlling movement and how it impacts the cattle plus ourselves. It's just understanding pressure and release. That's really the key to controlling movement, is just applying and releasing pressure at the right times. And that can affect the positive movement, you know, and control and the speed of the herd. And if we can control the speed and the movement, we're controlling the anxiety level. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to mention this several times, it's the phrase that I kind of developed and what we kind of practice is 3 points of pressure. Now we're on the little red roan here, and I think this is actually my son Taylor that helped me that day. Is rear pressure, I'm side pressure, and then the fence is that third point of pressure. And I will tell you this, a good quality fence is probably the best thing you can have in a cattle operation because it will reduce stress as much as anything we can do. A poor fence that has holes in it that cattle can escape out of, especially calves can escape out of, is probably the worst thing you can have and increases stress. Because the first thing that happens whenever we put cattle in a new pasture, they go examine the fence. They don't go to the grass, they don't go to the trees, they walk that fence. And that's just them seeking their boundaries. And if we can provide solid boundaries, it's just like, and I'm not a professional at this, I've raised two of them, two boys. If we can provide boundaries for our children, they're going to have a less stressful life. If we have no boundaries for our children, they're going to have a more stressful life. You know, we as adults understand that. And I'm certainly not a perfect parent, but that happens with cattle too. If we provide those boundaries, and I'm talking about fences here, I don't want to fence our children in, don't get me wrong. but on the cow side, if we have really good fences, that reduces stress because the cattle go where we desire them to go at the speed we desire them to go. And then learning when to reduce stress. This bottom picture here, we are not pushing these cattle fast because we've come out of this 50-acre pasture and now we're expecting them to go through this 14-foot gate, you know, so we don't want them and don't need to expect that they're going to just go out as easy as they walked up, you know, the side of this fence. So we need to give them time because one of the things that can result in problems here goes back to a hierarchy of dominance, just natural behavior. And I'll touch on that in just a second. But really understanding how to move cattle, you know, we can go out in a pasture and take one cow out of the pasture at a time. That's going to take too long and it's going to cause stress on each and every animal. The appropriate way to do this is to gather the entire herd because they are herding animals. So gather the entire herd and then treat that herd as one individual using the old adage of where is the directional point of pressure. In one animal, it's the shoulder. In front of the shoulder makes the cattle go backwards. Behind the shoulder makes an animal go forwards. And then perpendicular to that shoulder moving towards it will make that animal move away from you. And so if we can identify that directional movement point in that entire herd and move it as one individual is the goal that we want to achieve. And this takes practice. But one way to do that, and I've mentioned it about 6 times already, and that's utilizing the 3 points of pressure principle. And that goes back to that video we had earlier. So you notice Wes Gillum here is the rear point of pressure, and the really good fence here on each side are 1 and 2 points of pressure, causing these cattle to move forward. You notice I moved up here. Actually, I'm on a different horse, so that was a different day. So I moved up here because you see one of the points of pressure disappears. And if I was not here and positioned, these cattle, I can promise you, 100% are going to turn right and run really fast this way because they think they've received a position that they can go. Well, that's all of a sudden boosted anxiety in them, and it's boosted anxiety in us because what if we're taking these cattle to the pens to be loaded and marketed, and then we've just lost our opportunity to sell those cattle that day, or we've run a lot of weight off of them. So it's just thinking about that 3 points of pressure. So now I'm that third point of pressure to keep them going down the hill, as you saw on the video. Now, also, if we can keep cattle walking, a walking pace is so critical. And I say this all the time, and everybody thinks I'm embellishing, and I probably am, but I seriously think that utilizing the 3 points of pressure, I could take a herd of cattle down the streets of New York City if I properly use 3 points of pressure and keep them walking. Okay, and so that's something to practice and that release and addition of pressure, just like a foot on an accelerator. Now, we were talking just a little bit earlier, so what if we've just got one person? There's ways to do this. So this is a 50-acre field, and I'm here by myself, and I'm trying to apply 3 points of pressure on my own. Well, that's really simple to do, and you can do this on a four-wheeler, on a side-by-side. I just happen to, my vehicle of choice is what the Lord naturally provided us, is a horse. It doesn't necessarily have to be a horse. That's just my preference. But working the cattle from the side, a lot of people start off getting behind and pushing cattle. That works for about 5 minutes, and then things start going haywire and cattle start going everywhere, and that anxiety and stress increases in both us and the herd. So if what we've got is a good fence is 1 point of pressure, and then I myself on the horse or on the side by side can go to the rear and keep cattle pushed up, and then move to the side and keep cattle strung out or lined out. Just like those old Westerns, whenever they actually hired real cowboys and cattle women to participate in them, they understood, and the lingo was, let's get those cattle strung out, string them out, line them out to get them lined out. Because what happens is we have a hierarchy of dominance within these herds, and their natural means of movement is to stay together as a herd, but be lined out, be separated in a long line. The most dominant cattle tend to be in the center, right? Because the grizzly bears that are up here are going to get the ones that come first, and the mountain lions that are sneaking up from behind are going to get the other least dominant ones next. So the most protected ones, the older cows in the herd that are a bit more dominant, are going to stay in the center. If we push from behind too much and push these least dominant cattle into the more dominant cattle, we tend to cause confusion within the herd and anxiety. And the same goes for pushing these more dominant cattle into the least dominant cattle in the front. So keeping them lined out and moving back and forth, we're able to control speed, we're able to control movement, and we're able to control their level of stress, and at the same time, our level of stress. And patience at the critical points, just like we mentioned when we were bringing that set of cattle in the previous slide out of the pasture, give them time to come out, because they're going through in that line of dominance, right? Least dominant, most dominant, least dominant. And it tends to be some of our younger cattle, their frontal lobe, just like my wife talks about some of her high school students, their frontal lobes aren't fully developed yet. So we've got to give our calves time to figure it out. And if we pressure those calves too much, they tend to want to run by us. And then if that happens, the mother cow is going to run by us. Well, all that brings in opportunity for risk to ourselves and an inflation of anxiety in ourselves. So we want to watch that. And always remember that the level of injury of self, person, handler, and cattle increases dramatically in the more confined spaces we enter. So we're going from a large pasture to a small gate, from that small gate to an area, and then to the corral, from the corral into the single file alley. So keep in mind that we need to be aware, we need to be cautious, and we need to maintain those 3 points of pressure principle to control movement. One of the things that it's like driving through Spring Hill now. Actually, if anybody's been in Spring Hill a while, it's like driving through Atlanta. We've got traffic congestion everywhere. And when we're in traffic, no matter how calm a person we are, and I know several of you on this presentation are way more calm and level-headed than myself, but when we get in traffic, we tend to get a little anxious, don't we? And some of us can get a little bit grumpy and seek forgiveness after we realized how grumpy we were at the fellow person in the car that's just as grumpy. Well, that happens with cattle. Whenever we overcrowd them, they get anxious. And it's really about mixing those dominance levels, right? Natural behavior within that herd. And plus their fear of things when we get too close, we get inside that flight zone. And so it's so important that we match the number of cattle to the handling facility and infrastructure that we're taking those into. And those are some things that I can help people with. Your extension agents across the state can help you with. A lot of our vendors can help you design facilities to match the size of your herd. But at the same time, we need to understand, even with an appropriate sized facility, there's certain points within that facility that we can overcrowd, and we don't ever want to do that. And so what I like to think about on our facility here at Spring Hill, and actually we're working cattle back there now, and I took a break and let them work, and we're doing our 3-month health protocols, and so our mature cows, there's room in the single file alley, which you go in this area through a bud box, and then up through here is our single file alley to our chute. There's enough room to accommodate 5 to 6 head. Our rule of thumb is if we can accommodate 5 to 6 head, we're only going to take 4. That prevents congestion, especially as we get into a more and more confined scenario. That reduces injury, that reduces anxiety in both the animal and the handler. And that's something that's so important. It makes a day enjoyable versus a day not enjoyable. And that's something we do. We also like to utilize draws. So whenever you're bringing these cattle in, and they came in down this way and through here, so this is the holding pen that before taking them to the chute, the calves, being the least dominant and the least fully developed frontal lobes, right, tend to always wind up last whenever we come into here. So we just simply get behind them and push them back into a pen here that will allow the cattle, you can see these cows looking towards their babies, right, to be drawn to this. So it makes them easier to push out of this pen and to come by and go to our handling facility. So it's just using little draws to help us out. And we still have the 3 points of pressure, right? We've got really good corral panels here, and we've got myself as the 3rd point of pressure. And then we've got a little assist from the young lads and lasses over here helping get those cattle moving the right way. Positioning of yourself is so critical. It's so much more meaningful than jumping up and down and hollering. It's so much more meaningful than holding a paddle and a whip or a stick and then flinging and wailing with that every which way and hollering. Just simple calm positioning can accomplish more than any of that. So these paddles and whips and sticks, let's think about those from the perspective they can actually, whenever your anxiety increases, you've got that in your hand. You can turn that into a weapon instead of a tool. And we don't necessarily want to do that from an advocacy perspective. And it's pretty much just wearing yourself out and making you look kind of like you're angry. And now, if you need something like that to just increase your confidence level, that's fine. I'm not opposed to it. But you can just position yourself and allow for that active directional movement as well. And a lot of people tend to, if you've ever been to a stockyard, you hear a lot of hollering and banging and things of that nature. A lot of that causes confusion in cattle. They're not, and I think Temple Grandin shares this and has talked about this. It's a confusion that's associated with not knowing where that sound's coming from. Is it coming from behind the side or from the rear? Well, that increases the anxiety level in the herd that we're working with. So don't over vocalize. Just a simple whistle is just all you need, or just talking to the cow. And that way she knows where that noise is coming from and can help us move that animal. The result of proper handling, first and foremost is safety. We end the day happy. We end the day feeling successful. We can lay our heads down in the bed at night and think positively about what we did that day. Instead of laying our heads down at night and just dreading that maybe we hollered a little too much at one of our friends or our family because they were in the wrong spot at the wrong time and the cattle didn't react right. So safety is so important from that perspective, and family, as we all know, is so important, and really just the stewardship of the livestock that we get to that we're fortunate enough to work with and provide a healthy source of protein for our nation. It's a privilege to get to work in the industry, and we need to enjoy it. And ultimately, we always want to be good advocates for the industry. That concludes my presentation. I will stop the share and then answer any questions that anybody might have. I know we've got questions. Hey, I see a chat. Am I supposed to open that?
I think Ronnie Barron mentioned something to you. I think he laughed at what you
said. He did. Ronnie, how you doing, my friend?
Does anyone have any questions? Comments?
If anybody's thinking of a question or anything before that, I will say that you can just kind of watch our website and across the state for any opportunities. I actually do a lot of live demonstrations. I'll haul my horse here, there, and everywhere. If you got cows, I will travel and do these demonstrations, and we can do them on foot if you desire, or I can bring a horse and do that. It really works well to teach off that horse because it gives me the opportunity to move to the crowd and away from the crowd. And for some strange reason, I don't know what it is. But my level of anxiety is actually more controlled when I'm on a horse versus standing or sitting in front of this crowd talking. And so that's part of what my training has been over the years is in training young horses, and starting colts and things of that nature. I've had to learn to control my anxiety around horses. So when I'm on a horse, I actually do a better presentation. Right, Amanda? And, but yeah, so please, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. I can walk you through some things, and there may be some opportunities where we can host, some events in your area, especially if you want to do some multi-county things.
Hey, Joette, I'm going to stop the recording for now. Maybe that'll open up some other questions if that be the case. I think there is one in the chat box I saw pop up, but I'm going to stop the recording for now.
Okay.